Make sure we're okay. Then I gotta. Brian, one quick thing before we start, and you guys can decide if you want to take it out of order. If you don't, that's totally fine.
Do you want to do Lakeview?
That's what I was going to say, because it's literally probably 2 minutes.
Sure.
But we can motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the meeting?
Okay.
And seconded?
Yeah, I don't even.
Welcome to the zoning board of appeals meeting for Thursday, November 3rd. Per your suggestion, we'll just take it out of order and start with Lakeview Estates. Peter's been proceeding over that, but Brian, do you want to do it?
Sure. All right.
Okay.
Amy or Jim? What were you
Yes.
saying?
Basically, I did talk to Jim 10 minutes ago, and he said that right now, I have an email from him that we are at the point where continuations are not necessary, but he would recommend that the board extend the permit until November of 2023. And then if they're not done at that point, then we can look at it at that point. But he recommends that we vote to extend the permit until November of 2023. Angela?
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask for a year. So if the board would consider that, I will say that there was one outstanding issue from last month, or I think it came up before last month. And somebody who lives on Bryan Road had complained about the street light that was too bright. And so in between, we got in touch with National Grid, and National Grid saying that the streetlights as dim as they can allow for safety, and they won't let us put any fog glass on the streetlight. So unfortunately, there's not much that we can do about the streetlight.
Anyone in the public have anything to say? No? Brian, do you have any observations or anything? Is it better?
The only question I have, Angela, is that down Candlelight, they were doing work along the sidewalk. Is that just to put the light posts in? It looks like
Whereabouts?
it's where it meets up with the end of Silver Lake Road, just down the hill. It looks like they're doing. It looks like they're doing it to put in the. Are they just continuing to finish up the having light posts down the street?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. I know that they are doing the light poles down there now. They've also been doing like the granite bounds, like the boundary markers, although I think they're done with the granite bounds, so it must be the light poles.
I think so. I was just curious. I mean,
Yeah.
Everything seems fine.
Anyone in the board have any questions?
I just appreciate you, Angela, going above and beyond and, trying to resolve the abutters' concern with the light. And I understand National Grid isn't comfortable having a dim light for safety. Then, I just appreciate you going the extra mile there. And I have no issue with spending those through November.
Anything?
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
So unless you have a motion to extend the permit until November 2023.
I'll second the motion.
You have to move it.
He'll second it. I'll move the motion to extend through November 2023.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that passes. We'll see you in a year, Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. The next item on the agenda is 110 Florida Ave. The applicant and owner is Carlos Torina. I make a motion to open the hearing.
So move.
All right, all those in favor, do I have to vote to let it open the hearing?
So you move to open an individual here.
Okay.
You're good.
Yep.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I can read the hearing. Bellingham Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. at 10 Mechanic Street for a variance for the building of a bathroom off the back of the existing house on the premises of 110 Florida Ave, Bellingham, Massachusetts, assessors map 98 lot 67A. The property is on residential. The applicant and owner is Carlos Torina, 110 Florida Ave Street, Bellingham, Massachusetts. The application may be viewed at the town clerk's office, 10 Mechanic Street, during regular town hall business hours or online at www.bellingham.org. On the zoning board page, anyone wishing to be heard shall attend at the time and place above. All right. Can you give us just your name and just tell us a little bit?
Carlos Alberto, and the last name is Terrinha.
It looks like, how long have you've owned the property? Was it 8 years or how long?
I think about in 2016. It's been
5 years, 9 months.
And can you tell us a little bit about, so I see in the application that do you live on the first floor and then you rent out?
I live on the first
second?
floor, yeah.
Okay. And I guess, could you just walk us through a little bit what you're looking, you're looking for a variance?
It's my kitchen, it's very small, the bedroom's right on the side of the kitchen, just like a very small kitchen. And I just want to move the bedroom to outside on the back of the property. And we have a 20 feet on the line of the property. So with the bedroom, it's gonna be about 15 feet. And when I came over here to ask for the permit, they said to me that I have to do a variance. And I have a picture over here, only a picture from the kitchen, if you guys don't see it.
So you're saying
We
that,
have idea when I'm,
are you looking then to relocate, so you would take that current bathroom area to expand the kitchens?
yes.
And I guess what I was curious, and I asked you this before with Amy, but what is the exact relief that he's seeking? And what is the?
Right here, if you want to look to, Jim had put this together for all of us to take a look at. He's adding, basically an addition that will be encroaching into the rear of the yard setback. And so, it's required 20 feet front and then 10 side and then 20 for the rear setback.
Okay, so it's like 4.8 feet. Okay.
And
So-
he does have a picture on his phone if you want to take a look at, the area.
I have a picture of the bathroom. Excuse me, Butch?
Yeah. So we can,
Yeah.
you can pass it along if you don't mind.
Okay. What's this? Yeah.
So it's like that's in the kitchen over there, bathroom over there.
Okay. And then you'd be making the bathroom just stacked on the outside. Okay. So I know variances are typically the highest threshold that you have to cross. I guess to get approval from the zoning board, because you're asking for relief from the zoning bylaws, just for your particular. Oh, sure. But so according to the bylaws, to grant a variance, there's certain criteria that you have to meet. So the first, I guess,
It's actually right here too, to help the board, if you want to take a look at this sheet, right here, these are the three criteria that need to be met when you vote to grant a variance. It's 1, 2, and 3. If that helps at all.
yeah, that's what I was looking at here. So that's, I guess, would be my question too, is to address the 3 criteria. I'm not sure if you had a look at it, but it's, the first one is a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or applicant. So could you speak to what your hardship would be? That you need the variance.
What that mean?
It means that you have to say that you have to do this, or else you're facing a very significant hardship, financially or otherwise.
I'm sorry, because my English not very good, so I never study English and I stayed alone by myself. What I'm trying to say is, financially, if I if I have the money to build in the bathroom and stuff like that.
No, I guess the question would be, so you've owned it for almost 6 years. It currently works as a two-family. So to me, it just seems like I don't see why you necessarily, your need is so great that you need to do this, other than it's a nice to have. That you're kind of saying that you would like a bigger kitchen and to move the bathrooms outside so you could get a bigger kitchen, but it currently functions perfectly well as a two-family, because for variances for the board, it typically is, it's a high hurdle to go up over, because the setbacks are there for a reason. So that it's basically so that houses are not too close to each other. It sets a certain standard. So when someone is seeking a variance, it's a high hurdle to get to. So typically it has to say like, we meet these criteria and this is the only solution that works, and that you're facing, a lot of difficulty, that you need this, that get the exemption from everyone else, your neighbors.
It's for me, like the bathroom is kind of on the way for the kitchen, and like all the time that I have to go to the kitchen is so small that if me and my girlfriend gonna do something in the kitchen, we don't fit over there. It's like a small kitchen. So it's bother all the time, and I appreciate if I can get the permit to move this out of my way, because it's kind of hectic every day. So in the morning when you want to get out of the house, we gotta do something, she's gotta do something, my daughter has to do something, and we don't have space in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's like a kind of a in the bathroom, I have to remove it anyway because it's very old, so I'm gonna have to almost redo the whole bathroom. So if I can move it outside, it's gonna be, I'm gonna have to do the job inside the house if I gotta do outside and make the kitchen better. And it's just make like a less problem for me living there.
Yeah. And I know that, I think, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but that the hard issue with variances is it's not that we don't understand where you're coming from and that we want to help you, and that it may benefit your life a fair amount, but it's also for us, we're tasked with the criteria that were given in the bylaws, and that a variance is kind of saying like there's no other solution, and that you absolutely need this. And I guess with the criteria, there's a few on here, I guess like the third one about substantial detriment to the public good. And I don't know, I'm sure maybe that would be okay, but the second one is a hardship owing to circumstances relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography of the land or structures, especially affecting such land or structures, not generally affecting the zoning district in which it is located. So I guess it's hard because again, it currently does, to me, it seems like it functions as a two-family, and I get that like the kitchen's small. The bathroom is kind of not ideal, it's kind of a small bathroom off the kitchen. But again, I guess what gets difficult is that it still does function as a two-family. So I guess I'll open it up to the rest of the board if anyone else has questions.
I have a question. Is there a way to figure it out without encroaching on the setback? Is there any way you can
Move inside the house.
Yeah, just maybe on the other side, have it expand to another side where you're not encroaching on the setback going.
That's a good point.
Going down from 21 into 16.
It's the way they build the house, even my living room. Like if I put the sofa over here, my TV is like right here. It's a very narrow, and then the bathroom is over there, and then the kitchen over here. So
and then what's on the right of the bath? Is there any way you can just kind of tilt it to another side? Have the
no, it's like my daughter's door is right here, the bathroom is here, kitchen is over here.
I see.
And then the other door for the other bedroom is right here.
Okay, and then what's
And
on
then
the
it's kind of L shaped like this. Like,
I see.
Like this, and then over here is like kitchen. And it's the living room is very narrow,
Like Mr. Chairman was saying, in order to grant a variance, we are tasked with a difficult task to go beyond what the bylaw says. And in order to be able to do that, what he was saying is you need to prove a hardship. And the hardship is typically not just the inconvenience, it's more about financial hardship, family member really needs to, is really affected by this, otherwise they're not gonna live comfortably at all. So it has to be a significant level of hardship. It's not just inconvenience, it's more about, financially, I'm not gonna be able to use, I'm not gonna be able to live in this area, or, so because you're going beyond the bylaw. The bylaw is set there to prevent overcrowding of the whole neighborhood, so. And just unfortunate in this case that you happen to encroach on the setback behind you. And then you have to be here and go through the bylaw, and we have to kind of make a decision. And in order to be able to make those decisions, like Mr. Chairman was saying, we have to meet the number 1, 2, and 3 from the bylaw. The first one says you have to prove that there's a hardship. It's really difficult for you to go about this project. It's just, it has to be extremely difficult. It's not simple inconvenience, unfortunately. So that's kind of what we're looking for in order, what's this hardship? And then number 2 would be the hardship is owing to the soil conditions, the shape or topography of the land. So in this case, if you're trying to expand this area and then you have a big boulder as a part of your nature, and then you're like, okay, I need to move it somewhere else. That's how I understand it, at least. I don't know if the board agrees. So that's what number 2 means. So you have to meet number 1, 2, and 3 in order for the board to feel comfortable granting this variance. So what, is there a very significant hardship that you feel other than just inconvenience of your project being limited by space?
It's like I was saying, I don't have another place to move that around the house. It's the only place I have is the back of the house.
Yeah, because Ray made a great point that the side yard setback's only 10 feet. So you have, just looking on the map, it looks like if you're on Florida Ave, looking at the front of the house, the left side of the house has tons of space.
But on that side is the bedrooms. If I put the bedroom, I gotta go inside my daughter's bedroom or my son's bedroom to go to the bedroom. And on the back is 20 feet. It's going to 15 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
To 16.
It's going to be 16 feet after the bedroom in case to build it. And it's still like a lot of space on the back at 15 feet.
And on the right side, seems like that's pretty tight over there, just looking at the map.
The right side.
I'm just looking at, because Ray, I think, made a great point that I think to get a variance, it's extremely difficult. And that his point of, is there anywhere else that you could do the addition within your setbacks? Then you wouldn't need the variance, I think, is a great point.
Right, if you can kind of rotate it somewhere so you're not encroaching on the setback, but encroaching more sideways, then you wouldn't need a variance and you'd be able to do the work as long as you're not, moving out of the bylaw, pretty much going beyond the 20 feet front, 10 feet side, and 20 feet in the rear. So if that's an option, it's just typically, can you imagine having the project work that way? I'm just.
I think if I move to the other side, I'm gonna have to do it. It's like it's gonna be where I park the car.
Oh, I see.
Right, and I have to do the whole plumbing, turn all the way around.
Right.
To get to that point. So then, if I move that just backwards on the back of the house, the pipe is already there. So the plumber said to me that's very easy to do when you're doing the bathroom.
Yeah. I know, I think I think Ray said it perfectly too, is that it needs to be, you have to meet all 3 criteria, and that it is it's a difficult task to grant a variance, because it has to say that your particular instance is so unique and so special that you absolutely need the relief. Whereas like you could potentially do the addition, it's not ideal, but you could do it to the side and then it affects the bedrooms, but it seems like they're. Cause I guess, so like what you were saying, Ray, I guess the number 2 would be the hardest one for me to get over to.
Right, so number 3 is, you meet that, you're not creating any detriment to the public,
Yeah.
we know your intentions well, you're not changing too much. So you meet number 3, in my opinion, I don't know about boards, but number 3, you're fine. But 1 and 2, proving that it's a significant hardship, I understand, moving elsewhere, moving it somewhere else could be financial hardship, but still, do you really need to do the addition in that manner? But then number 2 is difficult because it's relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography of the land. And that's not an issue. The issue here is just the setback zoning bylaw.
Like that could be like wetlands too, like if you have, like you couldn't do the addition on the side because there's like.
Right, you have a river running by nearby,
Yeah.
or a wetlands, or something.
Or
owing-
grade or some sort of.
owing to the soil.
elevation.
But
Yeah.
it's just the way the bylaws are set. We can't change the laws, but we try to apply them to the best we can. And that's why we'd hope that you could meet 1, 2, and 3. 3 is fine, 1 and 2 is difficult.
Now, even if I make the bedroom smaller on the back, it's still the same thing?
Oh, the bathroom, well, it would have to, I guess either way. Unfortunately, I think the board doesn't look at it as increment, like if you're seeking to go beyond within the setback. It's the same level as if you're going 5 feet or 2 feet or 1 foot, unfortunately.
Because you have to grant a variance either
Yeah.
way, and you still need to meet these criteria.
I mean, I think there's some degree to it, but I think at the same time, it has to be, you're still going into the setback.
The rest of the board, of course, can have different opinions.
Yes, I think what we're all struggling with is we want to give you what you're asking for and trying to find a way to do it. But the only way we could do it is if you hit the 3 things that they were talking about. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you would hit all 3. And that's the only way we can give you what you're asking for. So sometimes what we suggest is if you want to come back next month, and talk to someone and read the requirements for this, and then come back and you can decide if you want to go forward or whatever. But right now, it doesn't seem like you have enough to justify it. So it's up to you. We don't enjoy saying no to people, but we're tasked with saying, here are the rules. Make sure they follow the rules. So that's, so if you want time to think about it and come back and maybe look at your plan a little differently.
Anyway, like, looks like I'm gonna need the twist.
But you, just food for thought is if you're not aware of them before you get here, now you know about them. Maybe some extra
I
time.
didn't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
3 repairs.
Right.
So.
It's up to you. The problem is if we say no right now, you can't come back for 2 years.
Unless he withdraws it without prejudice.
Right.
Unless you withdraw it
Which
without
he can-
prejudice
He's more
now.
than welcome to do.
And that way you don't have that 2-year waiting period. You can just think about it and see if you want to come back.
Like I said, the way the criteria over here is not gonna change, so I'm gonna see if I can, what I can do, if I can change something over there to do on the other side of the house, or because the way you guys explained to me, if I come back over here 3 months or whatever, the criteria is gonna be the same.
It's gonna be the same unless you find a way to prove, okay, I meet 1 through this condition, and I meet 2 through this condition, and then 3 is okay. If you can prove that to us, you'd have a better.
I wanna take the chance.
Yeah.
Come back over here.
So
Might be worth it.
do you want to continue till December? Is that what you're hearing or no?
Do you want to withdraw without prejudice, or
I'm gonna continue to see if
continue to for, yep? Okay.
I can, if I cannot figure that out, so, then.
Okay.
Sure.
And if they can find somehow a creative way where you meet all the variances, you don't even need to come in front of us again. So if you can clear that somehow, I know it's hard because of what your existing conditions are, but
Right, so if I change, like you guys, asked me to do on the other side of the house, if I change my mind to do on the other side of the house, I just have to come over here to get the permit.
Yeah, sure, and then they'll check, and as long as you're not, it seems like there's a lot of space from.
It's,
from the
I
plan.
think if you're able to do
You should be
that,
fine.
he could just talk to the building department, right?
Talk to the
And
building
then,
department and they
as
check.
long as you're doing it within your setbacks and your property rights, then you don't have to even, you can withdraw from this and you can just go ahead and do it.
Right. I'm just saying that, I know it's easier said than done, I can say that out loud, but actual figuring out that's harder, but I'm just giving you the information, that's all. Yeah.
And like Brian said, that it's hard because we want to help you and that we hate kind of having to, but as just, variances are very rarely granted. That's why it is like the highest kind of, the hardest task to get approved.
All right, so we'll continue your hearing until the meeting in December.
December meeting, does that sound good for you?
December
motion.
meeting is December 1st.
Motion to move the meeting to December.
This is the first, let me see over here.
Oh, this is
First, I'm not gonna be here. Oh, man, I'm gonna be.
Yeah, pick another month.
And if you're, I mean, again, yeah, if you're able to, I guess who would he contact? Amy, would he-
Well, what he could do is he can, if December doesn't work, he can also continue it to January. And then at that point, between now and January, he can come up with, either, another plan, or he can come up with, his reasonings on on how he feels he meets 1 and 2.
December
And
2nd?
we have it,
First.
it's just December 1st,
Is the Thursday.
Or January 5th.
yeah, or January 5th.
December 3rd is gonna be okay. I'm gonna be doing a seminar in Canada, but it's gonna be December, 3rd.
So, yep, December 1st or January 5th.
December.
December,
You'll
okay.
be okay,
Yeah.
December?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Second then move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Have a good day, a good night, you guys.
Okay. Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And this is all within the zoning bylaws of the town too. So absolutely.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is
Yeah.
180 Patricia Drive. The applicant and owner is
Damiano.
seeking variance for the building.
Yes, yes.
With property.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Very much.
I second.
Oh.
I'll second. Aye.
Good evening.
How you doing?
How are you?
Thank you.
Can you just tell us your names and then just kind of walk?
Yeah. My name is Tara Damiano and I've owned the property for 18 years. And basically we're here to request a variance for a 10 by 18 shed. As I don't know, do you have the pictures that we
The picture's right here.
Oh, you do, okay. So my biggest hardship on this property is topography. And my financial hardship would be it would cost thousands of dollars to excavate, put a new retaining wall. It's just not feasible financially, especially in that neighborhood, to invest that type of money into the land itself. That being said, if you look at the pictures, the backyard is 2 separate, you have your first layer, which is very narrow. You have your second level, which is just a complete wave of land and rocks. And so where we placed on the map is really the only spot in the whole backyard that it would fit and be flat.
Is that where it's raised? Is that kind of?
So that's the top, can I come up there and look?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
No, please, are you kidding me? This yard is like, never again will I ever buy a 2-tier.
Is that the?
So this is when you walk out the back door of the patio right here. See the patio? So this is the first level. And we took it this angle so you could see the retaining wall goes the whole way from the neighbor all the way over to here. So this is the only flat part in this section right here that we could actually put the shed.
So it would be on that corner.
Yes, it would be. So if you look at the map, do you guys have the map that we drew?
I couldn't find, yeah.
I have a copy of it here. Well, I mean, I thought they were gonna give you guys a packet.
I saw it in the,
In the packet,
the packet.
right? So if you look here.
Okay.
So we drew the shed, he's great at this, so, again, so it's a corner lot, and the people that purchased the house before, so there's like a huge chunk of side yard that's again, a slope and very wavy, not flat whatsoever. And that's from the corner.
So this is the street, well, we're a corner lot. This is, what's the, that's what you're saying? Is that-
Teresa. Yeah.
No, Teresa's.
No,
Yes,
that's-
yeah.
Oh, Patricia Teresa, yeah, I'm sorry. So this, from our fence, this is a fence right here.
Yeah.
This is all slope. This drops probably in elevation, probably 6 feet from here to here. That's just nothing but a big hill. Then this part is fence, and then there's a fence across the back side of the property that the neighbors had put up, before Tyrone on the home. There's a retaining wall that is right, this dotted retaining wall. And we looked everywhere. We tried to put that, we thought about trying to put it over here. But the problem is, if a 10-foot, the doors, when you opened up the shed, if it was 10 feet, it would be hitting the eaves of the house. So that wouldn't be ideal for a shed, trying to get in if we tried to put it over here. This is all sloped also down from here, this slopes down, and this is really the only spot where it's level. And there's a tree that's right here, so we thought about, trying to move it. It just, that's the only place it could sit.
And if we came out any further, it would be right by the retaining wall, like you try
Yeah.
to see it as a retaining wall to open the doors, and that doesn't help to put the lawnmower in the shed,
Do you mind if we just hold on to this and then just kind of, just because I want the people on Zoom and everything to be able.
Yeah, no, sorry.
I appreciate you guys walking us through.
No,
So
fine.
I guess the question I would have is that, is it, and maybe someone else on the board knows, but is it 80 square feet that is allowed by right for a shed?
8 by 10.
8 by 10, okay. Because I know that would be my first question would be, what's the use for the 10 by 18 that you're looking for such a
Storage.
storage?
So-
The house itself is a slab ranch, there's no basement. And the attic is literally a crawl space, you can't stand up in the attic. There's just no storage in the house whatsoever. We have a dining room now that basically is our storage room. I mean, we can't utilize it as a dining room. There's a hutch in there that we keep, some dishes in and stuff, but we can't put a dining room table in there because we have totes all full of, Christmas stuff. There's just no place. So we decided, well, let's get a shed. And then we looked at all of our stuff and said, well, an 8 by 8's not gonna, it might fit on the, in one spot down here, but it's not gonna serve our needs for storage. Unfortunately, a house without a basement, it's very difficult.
And my other. So I didn't do this before I purchased the home, and if you look at the property record card, I don't know if you have the property record card. So the picture of the front of my house has a garage door. I call it my fake garage. Okay, so if you look at the property record card, it's like the first 8 feet where the previous owners put the washer and dryer out there. There's still a cement floor, but I can barely fit a lawnmower in there. So after you weed whacker a lawnmower, just regular yard tools, there's beyond 8 by 8, and that doesn't leave us storage for anything else. So, that's where I'm being completely honest. There's just no storage in the house, and to keep yard equipment in any overflow, that's why the size. And we figured if we're gonna invest the money into a shed, we'd like to do this.
We don't want to, we don't want to outgrow it in, you know, a year from now saying, geez, we wish we had bought the next size up or
Right,
whatever. We originally were gonna go with a 12 by 16 and try to put it in another location. That didn't work. So we narrowed it down to 10 and went out to 18, but that didn't work in that location. It was on the side of the house, because the doors would hit the eaves. And it was just like, this is the only spot.
right.
And, you know, we didn't wanna, you know, we knew we had to get a building permit. We certainly didn't wanna have to come for a variance, but, basically for us to have a shed is why we're in front of you, because there's no other place to put it in the property.
Due to the topography.
If you put a smaller shed in the same location, would you still need a variance?
Yes, yes,
You still, regardless of the size, you still need a variance for.
right.
Because of the retaining, you know, it's a two-tiered, backyard. So if you kept it would have to be, 20 feet off of that side, I believe.
No, they don't need a variance for a shed, I don't think, right? If it's a 10 by 8, can it be within the setback? It's a-
building.
I spoke to Tim.
10 by 8 can go anywhere.
I think so, as long as it's not on.
Well, a
like,
10 by 8 doesn't fit our needs.
No, I spoke to Tim, and the way it was explained to me is because of it not being far enough off the fence line.
Right.
But if you had a 10 by 8, you could put it anywhere.
That was that's my understanding too, that the size of it.
That's,
Well,
that's not, no, that's, I'm sorry, that's not what he said to me whatsoever.
So
could be
you
a-
have a 10 by 18, so you have to get a variance. But if you said, I'm just gonna get a 10 by 8, you could put it right up against the line.
So the problem isn't the 18, the problem is the 10.
Let me ask you a
Right.
question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, it's
So
the 10.
the retaining wall, I understand where the retaining wall is, you can't have the doors open
Mhm.
to the retaining wall, but if you spun it around, could you have the doors open?
No, because then we'd have 18
Topography.
feet and it wouldn't,
No, it's the topography at that point. There's no spinning anything because we'd have to excavate and create more of a retaining wall. And
No,
that's,
if you just took the shed and you spun it around, so the doors open to the back as opposed to the front.
then you'd be right up against the fence.
right.
You'd still the 10 feet, you'd be either too close to the fence or
You got 4 feet, to your drawing, yeah, you have 4 feet to the fence.
right where we placed it now. And that was enough for us to open the doors and not, you know, fall over the retaining wall that's there. Now, if we spun it, then number one, the doors to the shed would be, you know, between the neighbor's fence and the shed facing, it just,
No, we wouldn't be able to like go around with the doors open to even get the lawnmower in if we spun it around. And then the back of the shed.
we have to stay, it's 20, I believe it's 20 feet off of that line.
But my understanding again is I feel pretty confident, like Brian's saying, that if you do. I think the size of your shed, if you do an 8 by 10, you're allowed, I believe, to place it as long as you're not pouring like a foundation, you're not doing like a frost wall. You could do an 8 by 10 and have it pretty much right up against your property line, is my understanding. I mean, I guess we.
But I don't understand what you're saying, because the 10 feet is the issue.
Well, if you do a regular shed.
Right, an 8 by 10. So,
Go ahead.
You don't need to adhere to the setback lines, is my.
oh, I see. So
Yes,
we can put an 8 by 10 right up against the neighbor's fence?
I'm pretty sure.
It's right there in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, so the way that he explained it to myself and to the assessor was that it was all about the
Setbacks.
setback being.
That's
It's
the
more
10
than
by
80
8.
square feet.
Yeah,
If you have anything less than 80 square feet, you can put it wherever you want. You have 180 square feet.
Okay,
So you have to work within the setback.
so basically what you're saying is then, for us to have a shed, it has to be 80 square feet or nothing.
You know, but I'm
Because if it's bigger than 80 square feet, because 80 square feet doesn't cover our needs, then then we'd be here in front of you.
Yeah, so, well, we're just trying to explore different options.
No, I guess I was just making sure I wasn't confused because of exact, he said it's just basically from that back fence. Cause
Right.
there wasn't enough.
That's,
He-
and
you
we
know,
would,
the-
he's absolutely correct, because the shed is bigger than needed.
Yes,
Okay,
So if you got a 10x8, put it wherever you want.
because the zoning bylaws are intended that you don't have a structure within the setbacks, but it also takes into consideration that that's why it has the 80 square feet threshold, that like if people want to have like a shed, that's okay. It's not the same thing as like having a swimming pool or having like a full-on building.
And this isn't a shed that's sitting on a foundation or even pillars, it's gonna sit basically on the ground, maybe some stone down and sit on the ground. It's not being built in place, we're gonna buy one and have it delivered and they're gonna set it, where we're putting it. I mean, she has so much property there that we can't use, it is what it is, she's owned the house for 18 years. It's just, this is really the only spot we put it, and, I even talked about, geez, what if we got an excavator in here and kind of try to level this off, and then like, well, yeah, but then we need a retaining wall here, and that would be too close to the neighbor's fence. We tried every way we could to try to come up with a place to put it, and then, finally it was like, well, this is what we need, let's just try to go to the board and see if we can't plead our case. And I think, the three criteria that we spoke about, we've met them. But the financial hardship to, and I don't even know if you would even grant us to do that, even if we could level out the land, because we would need a retaining wall, because the neighbor's fence would still be there, and we're gonna lower that down and level that out. Push it forward, take our retaining wall out and bring this stuff closer to the house. It would be thousands and thousands of dollars to do that, thousands of dollars. We tried to find a location, so we did not have to come here. We were gonna take down the fence on the side of, Teresa and say, okay, well, that's slope. Well, there's a huge oak tree that's there that's probably 4 feet in diameter. I'm like, well, all those roots are here, and then this is just nothing but a slope. How would we ever level this out enough to put a shed? It's not feasible to do. This is what we came up with, and I understand that we could have a 10x8 shed, but I would probably buy 3 of them so that we would have enough, so we would have enough room, and that doesn't make sense either. It fills the yard with sheds, and then we have no backyard. And one of the things I don't ever want to throw neighbors in the butt, but if you drive through that whole neighborhood on any one of the streets, there are many, 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 many sheds that are over 10x8 that are right on the property line, right up against the fences in the whole neighborhood. Also, we did send out quite a number of, to all the abutters, within 300 feet or 350 feet. Some of the neighbors came over to the house and spoke with us, saying, geez, what are you guys doing? And, we told them, they said, oh, you putting a shed in your backyard? No, that's fine. So we had nobody, whatsoever that had any, well, geez, I don't know, and obviously there's nobody here also. But I just think that we've met the 3 criterias, to put the shed there. And this isn't like it's, like the previous gentleman was actually putting a physical addition on his house that would always be permanent. This shed could be moved. If we sell the house, we could actually take the thing with us if we wanted to. It's really the only place it can go. And I'm hoping that the board really takes it into consideration, that we've met the criterias, and I'll shut up now.
No, I don't know. I know it's a tough one, because my house just has like a crawl space and has like no attic space. So I'm kind of like, I have like Rubbermaids outside, and so I'm kind of like, yeah, I would love to have that, but I also understand that and I guess storage need needs are definitely kind of subjective. I mean, some people, I mean, like me, I don't even have a garage. So I'm like, I don't even have a basement or a garage. So it's hard to. And again, it is,
And if I had a full garage, storage wouldn't be an issue for, things of that nature, but I don't
Yeah.
have a full garage. It's, and there's a garage door there. You're more than welcome to come look at it. There's the front garage door, but it's really
Open it up, there's literally,
washer.
washer dryer width is all that is, and there's the wall, and the dining room's behind it.
yeah,
It's just literally just the washer and dryer, 5 feet, 6 feet maybe. That's all that's there.
To the point where when you mow the lawn and you put the lawnmower in there, like the kitchen in that back room smells like gas for an hour. You know what I mean? So it's just like I need, somewhere to put all this stuff.
it's, yeah,
It's
hard.
And if if the topography wasn't an issue and I could put that, in a different location, so it wasn't 4 feet off the fence line, I wouldn't even be sitting here. It wouldn't be an issue. It's just that it's literally the only place to put it on the whole property.
I think that what we're, like we told the other people, we don't like to say no. And variances, unfortunately, for the two people that are before us this month are really hard to do. So we're trying to find a way to make it happen. Well, I think what we're struggling with collectively is you're on a small lot. There are people that have sheds, like I'm looking at Google Maps, and there are people's sheds, but they're all relatively small. I think one of the things that I know I'm dealing with is 10 by 18 is a huge structure to put right on the property line. And I'm wondering, I still don't understand why the shed can't be spun around and oriented in the other direction and move it back to the, right, and move it back and spin it around.
Because it's so narrow of the space up there.
It's the same amount of space, it's just the orientation of the shed is.
Oh, I see, you're saying that. Well, what's the rear setback? Would it be able to meet it?
I don't know. This isn't the scale I would imagine, but because if you look at, here's the retaining wall.
And that's a good point. I mean, because if you do move it back, then maybe you would have would you have 8 feet? I know, again,
When you
it's,
say move it back which way?
I think Brian said, or is that what you're saying?
If I understand, the way we have the shed drawn, you're saying now to turn it basically like this, right?
No, spin
So
that the door is actually,
To the back.
and then bring it all the way over to the retaining wall?
over to the
Yeah.
retaining wall, so it's not so
That's a
near
Brian
the line.
I mean, it does start to fall, it's not level there, it's level. Basically, where it sits is the only place where it's level, because from there, it starts to tilt, slope down, then you have the retaining wall, and that comes and wraps around. I tried to provide the best, photos of all the different angles, so that I could show that everything is, it's all tipped.
There's a 20 rear setback though, Brian.
what's the side yard setback?
The side is 10 feet.
Okay, so he explained to me, because I'm a corner lot, it's really that neighbor is a side neighbor. It's not my rear neighbor.
Oh, okay, so that's a side setback.
Yes.
So I've been saying 20, I'm sorry, it's a 10-foot
Because
setback.
you're a corner lot.
Right,
Right.
so I'm sorry. I guess I just thought that.
I mean, it's a good suggestion by Brian. I mean, is that possible if you did move it? I mean, I know, again, it's not,
No, I know it's not ideal, but I'm sitting here trying to think of, here's a retaining wall, you go 10 feet the other way, now you have doors that open, so it really wouldn't be functional.
Well, he's saying
just
that
got one
doors
of the back
would be opening towards the back fence.
And I understand that, so now we have the 10 feet of shed, and then however many feet doors are, and now I'm trying to swing a lawnmower,
It's the same amount of space, you're just swinging it around and moving it back. So you probably have more, because you're leaving, I think, 4 feet. I think.
Yeah, 4 feet.
So you're adding that, right,
That's
to
good.
the door opening. The
Okay,
problem is, it's your small lot,
right.
your neighbors are next to each other, and it's a massive shed.
That is
I would like to bring another point too, is the neighbors behind us, right up against the fence, have I've never been onto their property, but there's a giant block wall that comes actually up over the fence. And then they have 3 satellite dishes sitting on top of that. That, basically we look at that out of the backyard. I mean, I don't know how long those have been there.
That's
They were there.
exactly what we're trying to prevent. You know what I mean? So if they followed the rules, they wouldn't, you wouldn't have to deal with it.
Right, but so they didn't follow the rules and, now we have to look at that. The shed going in this location blocks that out of our sight. And, I mean, they're not here today saying that it's an issue to them whatsoever. I'm sure they wouldn't show up because of what they've got built in their yard. I guess at one time it used to be a dog kennel or something and it was made of block and then they put satellite dishes on top of it now. There's 3 of them on top of it. I just don't see how this shed is impacting anybody. I understand the rules of the rules. I do understand that. However, I think we have met the 3 criterias.
Topography, the financial hardship would to put it by excavating and retaining wall. And then, what was the third one? I'm sorry, I didn't have a copy of those.
neighborhood. It sounds like you're saying that I think generally, I guess to me, it does seem like a fair sized shed for the neighborhood, but I usually personally, I defer to people who attend the meeting. If there's a lot of the neighbors that are not happy about it, but if your neighbors aren't.
They came over and spoke, we get along with everybody in the neighborhood, and they came over and, hey, we got the thing in the mail today, what you guys doing? I was gonna put a shed in the backyard, I brought them back there, showed them where we want to put it. It was basically we got from everybody that did come over, I mean, I think we sent it out to 16 different people or something.
Yeah.
That were, and, not everybody came over, but the immediate neighbors all did. And
Actually, some of them were actually shocked to see how bad the backyard was. And it's actually embarrassing. I have to, it's my own yard and it's embarrassing. They're like, oh my God, I didn't realize your yard was this unusable and slopey. And I was like, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is why we were trying to do it, come to you guys and, ask permission the right way. And we're not people that would ever just go and do something and just, they're like, oh, right, no.
And that's the hard thing.
I want this done the right
I'm
way.
like you're saying, there might be neighbors that have big sheds like that and have not done it the proper way.
I don't know if they have or not. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to, assume, I'm assuming that they probably did, but I know that they're up against property lines and, I can think of one that's really, I can see it right from my house, that it's definitely bigger than 10 by 8 and it's right up against their neighbor's fence. And I'm not going to, use that as an excuse why we should get it, but we came before you to try to do it the right way. And at the end of the day, it's a shed. It's nothing that, it can be taken down, it can be moved, it's not gonna be sitting on, concrete piers even, it's just gonna sit on some, patio pavers. They told us to put some patio pavers. They had to have 12 patio pavers for them so they could put it down to level it.
But I think to Brian's point is that usually, because it is a high threshold, it has to be, which it seems like you guys have looked into a lot, but also to exhaust all other options. So I am curious, I tend to kind of think that that's a valid point to say, if you can move it back to the retaining wall and have the doors open the other way and do it by right.
I mean, I can sit here and say that it wouldn't work doing that. I don't know if we can do a continuance and you come out and look at it. I mean, I don't know how you want me to prove it to you, but this was the spot that, I mean, I had grade stakes and we moved them around that property. Okay, let's try it. We even tried kitty corner it because, we have a fence, but we own all the way to the road. I'm like, okay, this isn't the setback. The road's actually the setback. We have plenty of footage there. Let's try to put it in this corner. I mean, we've tried everything and it just didn't work. You know, moving it to the retaining wall, I mean, I would want to keep it at least 4 feet off the retaining wall so I could mow that area. And like I did in the backside of, you know, the way we have it set now, we have it sitting would be 4 feet off the back fence. I'd want to have the same option against the retaining wall. I wouldn't want it right up against it. First of all, it's a block wall, retaining wall that's been up for God knows how many years, and it's tipping. It's not perfectly straight. If that was to go over and the shed was right there,
Yeah, there goes the shed.
you know,
It is up against one side of the block wall though, right? On the short side?
no.
No. Well, be able to, okay. Okay.
I mean, we don't have the shed there yet, so the pictures you're looking at are
The benches. Yeah.
what's in the yard now.
Okay, cool.
But if you look at the map with where the house is and where we drew it in, I have the dotted line as the retaining wall. So I would literally have to put, I mean, I don't know, even if I put it 4 feet to there. Well, it's just,
I know, I think, yeah. Brian, did you have a thought?
No, I'd be curious if it can be done, and what that might be. And again, we're not trying to give you a hard time. But it's just the task that we're giving is not to do what your neighbor did to you. You know what I mean? It's to make sure that when you sell this house and when your neighbors sell their house, we don't create these neighborhoods where there's these structures that shouldn't be there.
No.
You know, and that's our job, and it's never any fun to say no to anybody, believe me. But if there's a way we can make this happen for you, we want to explore that. The only option I'm thinking is that either you get a smaller shed, or you spin it and pull it back, so the intrusiveness is more
Towards the
towards
house.
your house as opposed to your neighbor's house.
Okay, so if it's a corner lot and that's really considered a side yard neighbor, not a rear neighbor. And the setback's 15 feet.
10 feet.
Oh, sorry, 10 feet. We're asking for 4 feet off. So
So if you pull it back 4 feet, then you're only asking for a 2 foot. That might be something that we can live with versus a 4 foot in this huge shed right on the property. Because, and you're right, there are other people in your neighborhood that I can see that have sheds. They are relatively small, at least according to this aerial picture. You know, your neighbor, definitely, I saw the picture of the 3 satellite dishes, are definitely on some sort of structure. And they should have definitely,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but if it's a shed or anything like that, they didn't do it the right way. But there are people that have smaller sheds. This person has a huge shed.
The 8x10 shed, are you allowed to put 2 8x10s and not have
I
to?
don't think.
that would cost more, to be honest with you, to buy 2 sheds. And that's why
Makes sense.
I think it's just one. Yeah, I don't think it's like you could get
You
like
can do one and then.
3.
Well, right, so honestly, legally, I could do that, and we talked about that, do we go out and get multiple sheds, and that's how I know the answer to this, is because we priced it out. And, to go out and get multiple sheds, and just slap them wherever we want, slap them side by side without coming here, we'd be within our legal rights, but that's not, financially, that's not, the better option. And I figured if we're gonna just do this, let's just ask.
I believe the intention of the 80 square feet though is that you get one now. So I don't think that's technically true, that you could do.
Multiples.
Yeah,
Yeah, do
But-
one and do another.
yeah.
I honestly don't know, because I didn't look into that, but
Without curiosity, it was a question out of curiosity for the building.
Yeah.
Now, how big is this? It looks like the firewood shed. How big is that one?
so that's 8 by 8 and that is coming down. It is rotted right to the core, that we can't even put anything in it.
But the problem with that is, so whoever the people were before me that own the house that put it in, if you, I don't know if it's a good picture, if you look, it's on cinder blocks and in rocks, and if the building
Yeah, so-
commissioner ever showed up, I'd probably be in big trouble, because it's not flat land there. So however they monkeyed it, the whole floor's, tilted and falling through, like, we couldn't even put the same size shed there if we did it the right way. You're right. So that, again, to use that same location, it would cost thousands to make it level. That's my problem. Definitely a life lesson. I will never buy another property that has any type of two-level, two-tiered, it's, no, it's very, I know. So no, I will never be here asking for a pool or anything else. Because it's just not happening in this yard, Swing set wasn't happening because you were too afraid of the kids flying off and breaking a neck and no, see, I'm being serious, just.
What if you put a shed? And just throwing out ideas, where that firewood shed is now, if you put a long shed there and had the doors open at the end.
At the end, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that the long wall that would be on the gable end.
You could put as big of a shed as you want.
Well, that area is
Oh.
fenced in,
Oh, you mean on that side of the house?
yeah.
So there's a fence there and then there's a huge tree on the other side of it.
Birth on the other side of the fence.
The tree?
Is that right, or?
Yeah, the tree is right on the other side of the fence. I mean, it is maybe 18 inches off the fence is where that big massive tree sits.
Yeah.
I do know that there's visible roots that are all like above ground right through there. And
There wouldn't be enough room because you wouldn't be able to open the 2-bedroom windows and get out of the
It
windows.
says 16 feet on the fence there, so Brian's, would you have 6 feet? From the house to the shed?
This is 8 feet.
No, but I mean, on his sketch here, it says 16 feet for that, so if you have 10 feet and then 6. But like you're saying, I guess you could.
I guess I'm confused because I guess I'm looking at that side of the house. It's 2 bedrooms on that side of the house. So, I mean, would there even be enough room to open the windows and get out if I ever needed to? If there was a.
That's why you have 6 feet, I guess it'd be tough with.
well, the way we laid it out over there to go, that was one of the locations we thought about trying to put it in there. And the issue that we had was if the door is towards the backyard, that whole part of the yard slopes down right to that shed, and that shed is actually sitting on, cinder blocks on one end and bricks on the other, because the land was like this, so, it's all built up, and I think if you blow up, on my phone, you can blow up the pictures and see that, what I'm talking about. I mean, it sits, probably this high off the ground on one end, and then is on the ground on the other, because of the way that land comes down. That being said, you moved it a little bit, now the eaves of the house, it's not a gabled hip roof, it's got a hip roof, and it's got, I don't want to say, it's gonna be 20-inch overhangs or 24-inch overhangs, and putting the shed there and then opening a 3-foot door, it was like, oh, that's gonna hit the eve of the house. And like, that's not gonna work. We tried,
Would your doors be on the long end, facing the backyard though? If it's like a big. If it's going like this long and skinny, can you have the doors on the back there facing the backyard and then just have it like
Right, that's right where that
side
slope comes down though, so that wouldn't, you wouldn't have, when the doors were open. I mean, the slope would be there, you probably would have maybe this much flat before before you hit the door. But if you've got, lawnmowers and and you're trying to get in there, it's not a. I mean, I don't know, like I said, we've tried everything over there, matter of fact, Tara almost said, let's not even get a shed at one point because. It's taking up the only flat part we have in the backyard. Now we want to, put a shed and, basically we weighed out, potentially playing lawn games out there or having a place for storage, kind of out trumps playing lawn games. And we were like, let's just go with the shed.
Well, Brian's suggestion, I feel like is kind of a good one too, because then you kind of get some privacy off that too. And it's kind of like a visual. Well, that's your. Is that a chain?
Well,
Is it
is
a
it,
chain? Oh, no, it is. Okay.
right, so now I'm talking about. I guess, yeah, so there's privacy because there's a fence there. But I guess my only, as being a homeowner. And it being such a small house to begin with sunlight coming in and everything else. That side of the house is the 2 bedrooms. And if I put a shed right there,
Okay.
that's all I'm gonna be looking at. And I mean, I didn't look at the square footage, but if you put 10 feet from that fence, you literally open the bedroom windows, you're gonna be touching the shed, that's gonna be 2 bedrooms right there. You know what I mean? In a 1,000 square foot house. You know what I mean? So I guess
Trying to find a place.
no, and I really appreciate it, and I don't wanna sound like I'm trying to give you a hard time or, be argumentative whatsoever, but I guess now that I'm actually visualizing the shed right there, I mean, we wouldn't be able to open the doors going towards the house and swinging a lawnmower there anyways, but I guess wow, that's what I'm gonna have to offer one day when I go to sell the house. I go in 2 bedrooms and they're looking at a shed that's your view out of 2 bedrooms in the house.
Well, I guess the other thing is we're just kind of looking at different
yeah.
ideas and that it's obviously fully within your right to say that we've explored the other options and that this is where we want it to be.
Well,
And then you could just have us vote on it. I mean, I guess.
right, no, but I value your opinions, I really do. I mean, again, we don't want to cause an issue down the line for anybody else, and that's why we talked about, any type of shed or structure we put out there, we're not gonna put a cement pad down, we're not gonna put pillars, so we literally could have it moved to wherever we end up going. I mean, so we've tried to think of all these options, and if the topography wasn't so bad, and it didn't cost thousands of dollars to excavate and do retaining walls, I mean, I'm not here saying, oh, it's this or that. I mean, it's legitimately a hardship financially if I have to put any type of money like that into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not within the budget and put a shed on the property.
I know one of the things that's tough is that it is just this shed, but proportionally to the house, it's a pretty good size shed. But I guess, I think
So
what would be, what would be
it's not.
helpful is maybe go into the criteria and then we could talk about it. Cause I think,
I mean, if the only option you're saying that we have is to come off the back fence a couple more feet. I mean, if that's our only option, then obviously we'll figure it out, we'll make that.
Well, the
happen.
thing is, it isn't a couple more feet, it's 6 more feet, because we need 10 feet, and like you said, whether you're 1 foot, whether it's 2 feet or whether it's 10 feet, it's a 10-foot setback. So if we're encroaching on it 2 feet, it's still, we're encroaching on it, so, and where the back neighbor, that house where that is, that fence, they weaved all this stuff through the fence so that it's like a privacy fence, you can't see into their yard. Then they built this giant, and this was done years and years ago before Tara owned the home, this giant block structure. And we were told that she had kennels there at one time, and that's part of the kennels. And then to make it worse, she put satellite dishes on top. And, that's what we're looking at. And putting the shed on, basically our own property, yes, we're over the setbacks, and I understand wholeheartedly why they're there and why you do it. But it's not a permanent structure, number one, and it's not intrusive to any of the neighbors that we've spoke with, and there's been quite a few that have come over. Even at Halloween time, when people coming by with the kids and they say, hey, well, you know, we got a letter, you putting the shed up? Yeah, oh, yeah, okay, no problem, you know, and they went off. It is a pretty tight community, you know, neighborhood right there. Everybody kind of gets along. There's no wars going on between neighbors and things of that nature. And I think the fact that there's nobody here or you haven't received any letters or documents from any neighbors or anything that had any complaints about it. Matter of fact, I had, you know, neighbors saying, well, if you need any help when it comes, let us know and we'll come over and help you. So I don't really think that, you know, I would like you to look at the, you know, your regulations. You have to do the 3 criterias and take a vote on it, I guess, and we'll have to see, you know, how it comes out from there. But I want all of you guys to understand that we really did try to find another spot in this property before we ever had to come here to do this, because we really didn't want to. And, you know, short of, you know, getting a smaller shed and going to we'd have to go down 10 by 8, which wouldn't really fit what we need. By the time you put a couple barbecue grills in there, your lawnmower, I mean, it's full, and all of our totes are still sitting in. But hopefully we'll have a dining room sometime. You know, they'll all be out in the shed because they don't need to be in the house. The attic is, you know, it's a long, very narrow. Literally, it's probably this much. You have to crawl down a board and slide stuff, and we've got.
Well,
quite a bit.
it's really the pipes too, because the previous owner, when they moved the laundry out of the kitchen originally, and they moved it out into that, again, fake garage, because the garage door is there, you know, it goes into ejection pump, and all those pipes are right up there. So, you know, there's a lot of area up there that I can't use because I can't put anything on the pipes. You know, on those pipes in the attic.
No, yeah, I mean, I would say that I appreciate that you two have definitely studied a lot of options, really thought about it.
You know, if your only option is that we have to move it this way, I mean, we'll take your suggestions and, you know, whatever options that you'll give us, you know, and whatever you tell us, we'll follow the rules. But it's, you know, these are what, you know, we're here to ask.
I'd be curious, just talking to the rest of the board, to go by the criteria, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, one suggestion that makes things a little more complicated, you could go there and look.
That's true.
You do a site visit, makes things a little more complicated, slows you down a little bit. That we just
Well,
do it
it's
else.
because of the time of year and the weather, you know, that is the crunch right now. It's like one of those, you know, if we're gonna do this and be able to do it now, we need to do it now because of the weather and the land and moving a fence, you know, to get a shed in. So there's just so many moving pieces and parts to it, you know what I mean? Other than, you know, it's not like a crane's gonna show up and flop it over. So I mean, there's things that have to.
We're taking down the, it's just a picket, not a picket fence, stockade fence. And we need to take out 2 sections of that fence so that they can get the shed into the yard. And then we'll put the fence, you know, obviously put the fence back up. But you know, that's the only way to get it in, because we can't get into that, access the yard from anywhere except for on Teresa. And that's all sloped. And I even said to the gentleman that was gonna, you know, bring it, I said, this isn't a paved or a gravel, you know, driveway that you're gonna drive up and into the backyard. It's grass and it's sloped. And I said, you need to come out and see the site before you even, you know, say you can do it. He goes, no, we can do it. We have those big turf tires and it'll go right up through the yard and they'll be able to set it. He said, okay. They just said that they needed, you know, the width. So that's 2 sections of the fence that we'll have to take out for them to get into the yard.
My only question that's left is, what's the hardship of going from 810, not going with 810 and going with the 18 by 10? What's your hardship?
Well, honestly,
not going with something smaller.
Okay, so I think neither one of us, and shame on me, to be honest with you, it wasn't presented to me whatsoever that the 18 was the issue. It was the 10 off of the side yard setback. So in my mind, I didn't even think about that because it was never brought to my attention that it was the 18 that was the issue. It was the setback from the rear neighbor, which is technically legally a side neighbor, because of being a corner lot. So the 18 never
The-
even,
the
it never
square
dawned
footage.
on me, to be honest with you, because it was really just the setback from the side neighbor about the 10 feet. So,
Which is
the
correct.
18
Yeah, the building commissioner did.
right, so the
Say that.
18 just never even dawned on us, to be honest with you. We just went off of, okay, this is probably the best fit. There'll never be a storage issue ever again. And it was just
It's obvious that there's no detriment, I think, to your neighborhood, since your neighbors were all informed they're not here, and topography is obviously, you meet that,
yeah,
you seem to be meeting that criteria,
right.
so.
And
I
that,
think at this point, you can decide whether to.
yeah. And
If
that
you'd like
wood
us to
shed
kind of
would come
investigate
down.
it more, or if you want us to make a decision now, or if you'd like to delay it later, for, maybe another month and come back with,
So if we have our choice on that, I would like the board to make a decision tonight, mainly because it is November now.
Yeah.
And we need we need to be able to get the shed into the backyard and
Move the fence without breaking it because the ground's frozen and it costing more money. No, see, and I'm being honest with you. I'm being completely honest with you. The ground being frozen changes everything. So it's, yeah.
Again, we don't want to be difficult, we're applying the
No,
bylaws.
no, and I appreciate it. And I'm trying to be 100% transparent and honest. Again, the 18 never even, I didn't think of that even being the issue. The issue that was presented to me was the setback.
So it would be a 6-foot relief then, is what there would be looking.
If you're not going with Brian's option, right, could you present a different option?
To flip it around.
Right,
To flip it.
so if you're going with the initial proposal, yes.
So to go over the criteria, a little enforcement of the provisions involved with substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, the petitioner. I don't know if that's true. There's other options available.
It's hard
Small
because-
structures available. So I don't know about that. The hardship is owing to the circumstances of the soil topography. I think that we hit that one. I think
Yeah,
That
I agree.
that ledge is done.
Well, and again, I guess that's my concern about flipping it around would be that now it's bringing it closer to that retaining wall, which you can see from the pictures that it's embarrassing, that it's not sturdiest, it's starting to tip, it's starting to wave. And I guess my fear is putting something of that weight that close to it, because every year that I've owned the property, like the topography, it's changing. I mean, at some point.
I guess my point is we're trying to take the impact and put it to you as opposed to the neighbor.
Right, and I
By
understand.
moving it from the neighbor, you're making it easier for us to give you what you want,
Okay,
and it's more impactful to you as opposed to
somebody
me.
else.
So that's-
Okay,
That's where I'm struggling,
okay.
and I do think a 10 by 18 shed in this small lot in this area where closely, where their homes are very close, that is impactful. So if we can draw it away and put it in, because there is a topography issue for sure. So if there's a way we can minimize the
Yeah.
impact.
I do want to say too, I understand what you're saying, being, it is a small lot, however, we are on a corner lot and there's no neighbor, as our house sits looking at the front of the house, there's no neighbor to the right. You've got, we have plenty of setbacks. I think I did measure it from the road to where the shed was sitting. I think it's 60 feet or, it's quite a distance. And then you have the road, width of the road, and then our nearest neighbors quite a bit, over that side. So there's nobody really looking at this, that's close. The people behind us, they're not gonna see it mainly because of the structure that they have right up against the fence line right now. And they're not here, tonight, with any problems and I'm wondering if, when they built that, if they actually came before you guys or if they just went and did it. And the neighbors, the house that Tyra bought, the people that Tyra bought the house from just had to live with it.
It must have been horrible. There's kennels there. I mean, there was dogs barking like crazy. in the small-
Nobody told me when I purchased the home that was the situation, and again, I know this is on camera, and I don't want any issues, and, I wish everybody, peace in their own yards, in their own houses, but yes, it was a nightmare. And I was stuck because the market went belly up literally a year after I bought my house, so. Yeah, the first 5, 6 years of living there without knowing what was going on was a nightmare.
Which to Brian's point, I think that's why, which is hard for us in cases like this, why we
Right.
come across as difficult and kind of sticking to the criteria because we try to, yeah.
And I
And that it
understand.
is immaterial to what we're looking at today because people didn't, even though I get that if it's in the neighborhood, it's not really anything we can take into account. We just have to look at exactly.
Right, exactly. So if it's a couple feet, I need to come closer to my house, okay, if that's the only
But a couple
solution.
of feet only gives us 6 feet off the fence. It doesn't. We'd have to move it. We would have to move it 6 feet.
No, I'm not saying it completely out of setback. I'm saying moving it back as far as you possibly can, so
Okay.
you're not impacting your neighbor. And when I say as far as you possibly can, I'm not leaving a strip of land to mow. I'm moving it from the setback, so you're not impacting it.
So you're saying that it could be, you're saying it doesn't have to meet the setback. It can encroach over the setback, but you're saying even coming somewhere in the, being somewhere in the middle would
Okay,
make
so
it
it's a-
more,
Would it
You
be
do
on-
have a topography problem.
Yeah.
Right,
I get that.
okay.
And I also wonder leveling a shed with blocks and whatnot. Cause that's how it's gonna be leveled anyway, but. What I'm struggling is, there's options. And this is a big shed, and you're really on top of the lot line. If you could cut, either we go to your house and you say, oh yeah, that won't work. Or, another option is you. Come back in a month and say, we looked at it and this is how far back we can move it, and this is, I have a scale drawing that's a little bit more accurate than this, and this is how far off we're gonna be. Give us a little more information, because we want to say yes, we really desperately do, and that's why we've talked about this for 45 minutes.
So, no, I know, I feel bad.
Continuing? Is that what are you
so-
willing to continue?
I
To
would
have you guys
suggest-
go
I
and
would
visit?
suggest
or-
that.
I guess, is it up to the applicant though? As
It's,
to,
it's entirely up to you.
They pretty much, you've got actually probably 3 options. The board can vote to continue, to have them come to your property and explore what everybody discussed.
Okay.
The second option would be to close the hearing, and the board would render a decision.
Okay.
Your third option would be to withdraw the whole application so that you had the right to come back in 2 years. So there's really 3 options. That you guys really should, figure out what works best for you. And
So if we
Moving forward.
withdraw the application, we don't have to wait the 2 years, is that? or
you
we
do not,
We do not.
you can reapply again. But if the board is willing to continue it till December, so between now and December, if each of you, if you gave permission to them for having them each go separately to take a look, then December 1st would be the next meeting. That's when they would render a decision.
Because if we say no, the problem is if we say no, by law, you can't come back for 2 years. 2 years, you
Right.
can't build the shed.
Right.
And none of us wants for that to happen. We're trying to find something that works with the bylaws, and we're not trying to be busybodies, and I don't want you to think that. It's sometimes these decisions just are very difficult, what we're tasked to do. So if you want, we can go, if we all go out there and take a look at it, yeah, there's no way that would work, and this doesn't practical, and then we have a firsthand knowledge that might, I'm not saying that's gonna guarantee the result that you want, but it would certainly fill in some blanks, I think, for us, but that's. up to
Okay,
you.
so my question to you is, from the time you do an on-site inspection, how long would it be until we received a decision?
They would vote if they went to the site, each of them separately, or somebody took a video to share, whatever you guys decide you want to do. December 1st, they would render a decision. The decision, I would file that next Monday, which is, let's say, the 3rd or the 4th. There's a 20-day appeal period. So then you're looking at, December 24th-ish.
Yeah, so now, I mean, we're gambling that it's not gonna be snow and that they can even get the thing delivered.
It's your decision.
So if we, let me ask you this,
Yes.
if we decided just tonight, just to say, okay, let's,
So
well, I'm afraid if we vote and it doesn't go our way, then.
it does not have to be unanimous. So not every single member has to agree, but you have to get the majority of the members.
Is it a special permit?
It's a variance.
It's a variance.
So it'd be 4 out of 4. So
3 out of the 4, because you have 4 here.
You're saying it just has. to
So
be
it would
majority.
be 3 of the 4. You would have to be in the affirmative.
So in, right now, it would be basically based off of just the criteria that's been laid
Yes.
out, is that we just move it closer to the house.
No,
if
but they
that's-
would be voting on what we
Presented.
presented.
Well, if Brian came up with an option that the board felt comfortable with the moving and everybody's in agreement with that, once you guys close the hearing, and they haven't closed the hearing yet, once that hearing is closed, no more testimony can be provided by you. The board at that point looks at the options, whatever they best feel will create the best situation for this property. But no more testimony can be heard. So it's really important that you explore whatever options might be doable before the hearing's closed, because once the hearing's closed, nobody can say anything further from the public or.
So if I had a magic wand, if I was the king of Bellingham,
Mhm.
I would say, fine, go ahead. But it would be very helpful to actually see
Okay.
your yard. It would be very helpful to know if we did move it back, what are we really gaining and what kind of detriment is that to you? And are we just having some academic problem with the structure being next to a line and it's not really impactful? That could be true too. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
the topography of the land might be that nobody sees this thing. So I don't know all that, but I'm saying that I'm willing to look into those things, to
Okay.
give you the option, and hopefully we find a way that works for you.
Okay.
But that's entirely up to you. But I know you have a timetable, you have.
Well, that's my stress right now is the time, you know what I mean? I think that's because of if we didn't live in New England and we weren't potentially gonna have that much snow, you know, so I think, what are you talking?
It's just, it's, you know. a
If
gamble
it's a
either way.
time, you can also continue it in December to the spring, let's say. I mean, I know it's not something that you want to do, but you could also do that. Do you know what I mean? If there's problems with the weather, I mean, if it's continued to December, you could continue it till another date certain.
And I do appreciate all your time.
I do, we
I
probably
know-
took a lot more time on this than we thought it was gonna be.
Appreciate it, but be transparent, and we want to do the right thing, so
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
that's all we care about, is doing the right thing and getting the right, permission and.
And we appreciate that because, not many people do, or that's not fair to say, but a lot of people don't. And, we, like I said, we really take no pleasure at all being difficult. At least I know I don't, and I'm sure I've been around these people for a while and I know they don't either. So
No, I
if there's a way we
understand.
can make this happen for you, we want to find it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
So are we thinking continuation? Is that what the pleasure of the board is? And
To the property? or do
Well,
you
I
guys
think,
want-
I think the best would be to come out and take a look.
Okay.
And, and then, hopefully, we can meet back in here in
December 1st.
December
would you want to
1st,
continue it to December 1st?
and get a decision then. And, that way we can still get the shed in before snow flies, hopefully.
Okay.
So if you're willing to come out to the property, or one or all of you, whatever you want to do it.
somebody. Or something. We can't all.
No, because then we have to have.
Sure.
Well, we can figure out the logistics of that after, but if everybody's okay with that, do you guys mind making a motion to continue the meeting till December 1st?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, and then, we'll get the agenda so that, because I know we have 3 other hearings that evening, we'll make sure we get yours up on top so that so that you don't have to sit through the others.
Right,
Sure.
so you're gonna, they've already made a decision by then, right? So.
No, they won't make any decision. They can't deliberate
Oh, right.
outside the hearing.
Right, okay.
They
Sorry.
simply, what we ask is if you would allow them to, maybe you can send me an email that you allow them to either set up a time to come visit.
Yeah.
Because we don't want them to come on your property without permission.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Obviously. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay,
All
all right, good. All right.
Again, we appreciate you. Like Brian said, we want to help because that's,
Well, if it's gonna be
Never easy.
allowed, we want it to be the right way, and if it's not gonna be allowed, we just wanna know so we can move on and, sell the house and go buy something bigger. I'm kidding, thank you for coming, it's a flat piece of land.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Good.
Aye.
Okay, so still moving along here. I think that pretty much we've got 2 more items, Brian, and then we're good. Can we do the minutes quickly? Those probably will be.
Sure.
I really read them.
Yeah, I was good.
I had no comment.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to accept the minutes as
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, the last item, I think in our last meeting, we did discuss the special permit renewal process. Got some great feedback from the members. And so what I did is I put it out to council to kind of just brainstorm with her, where we're at, looking at our bylaw, what the bylaw says. And I forwarded to everybody an email from council on what her take is from the interpretation of the bylaw, that she feels it's really an administrative action within the department. So unless, we want to look at it differently, the thought was take again all of those from 2018 and back. I've already started a list of those, and I will put out a application with a statement saying, sworn testimony that this person is living here. And then if there's no enforcement, there's no, back taxes, all of that will be done administratively within the department. There's no red flags, then at least how I'm reading it is that those are pretty much conditionally approved. Those that are red flagged, then at that point, what town council has said is those then would need to go to a public hearing for you guys to say, okay, they haven't met the threshold of that renewal process. And then they would have to, abutters would have to be notified, and you'd actually have to open a hearing and have a hearing for those that don't hit that threshold. And if you're not comfortable with that, we can certainly have Amy Questle come in and explain it. But she quoted what our bylaw says, and she feels that it's an administrative action within the department. So we don't technically really even have to come here to do that,
And you,
except for if it goes to public hearing.
and you had said at the last meeting, you were going to look into neighboring towns and to see kind of what their,
That's exactly the process.
okay.
It's administrative.
Did the
So
town
it's
council?
similar to what they do with the class 2 licenses with the Board of Selectmen. It's similar to what they do with the alcohol licenses. Those are approved unless there's a reason not to. The reason that somebody maybe loses it, then they have to come in and explain why they lost it and then reapply again.
So
So
did town council have any concerns about?
not at all. No, she said if we have on the application the sworn statement of perjury and penalties, that whoever's living there, if they're signing an affidavit or basically under penalties and perjury, that this is my mother, that's it. She said, we really don't want to be in the business of having people come in.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess
we
that
just
was my
question
question,
them.
is that if the other towns do it all, you're saying administratively, did
What they
town
do is,
council have any concerns as to if we are having people come back?
oh, she had big concerns about that, yes.
Okay.
And I don't, what other towns do is they send out a letter basically saying, one town it's $10 for the special permit renewal, and it's done on a yearly basis. That's for their special permits, not the in-laws, but just special permits in general. They renew theirs every year, $10. What they do is send out blanket letters. They have a little sheet for those that are in-laws. It gets torn off with the name of the person that gets in a database, but this is for all special permits. So one town does it every year with basic special permits. And then other towns do it just administratively. And again, if there's issues, they come in. So everybody does it a little bit different. Mhm.
So I guess we certainly can have her talk to us too, if that's helpful to talk to.
Yeah, so my reading of what she says in her email is that we can do it if we want to administratively. And that it's an option that we could do. It's not that, I guess what I'm struggling with. What efficiencies are we gaining by not having them come in? And my concern is that these special permits are granted for 5 years, usually in a circumstance where it's an elderly parent or someone with a medical condition. In 5 years, in those circumstances, a lot of things can happen. And in 5 years, the board turns over, there's a lot of things that can happen. And it's just a good practice for people to come back and say, I'm still here, the same condition is still, because every day I deal with people who just sign this, and they just go like this and they sign it, and they have no idea pains and penalties of perjury means, and quite frankly, it doesn't mean anything.
I
Because
disagree
they're-
100%,
they're
Brian.
certifying what they're saying, but so what? If they don't, it's different for someone to actually come to the board and make a representation and sit there, and if they're not telling the truth, to sort of deal with it on the fly as opposed to just flying with them. That's my concern. I don't want to create any more administrative burden.
It's not an administrative burden, but my concern, and again, I mean, we can talk about this in executive session, or you can have town council come in. But my interpretation from what she communicated to me very clearly is you do not want to put yourself as board members to be the deciding factor of who somebody is in their house and not. You don't want to be that, you don't want to be in that position as board members to decide that that mother maybe isn't the mother. And again, you can definitely have town council come in, but I'm communicating to you and the board that there could be very serious consequences if the board does that.
I agree more with Amy, but I don't feel like our
No.
position here is to police or to
Yeah.
to go and knock on doors and check, hey, have you
We never did.
Yeah, I know, but having the signatures like on our system and not inundating the board with applicants who are still meeting everything, and then let's say they're elderly, you're forcing them to go out of their houses where they're comfortable and they're less prone to hurt themselves, honestly. I don't being realistic.
Yeah, I get that, but we're not asking, and we've never asked,
Right.
even when they come for a permit, that you bring the injured person or the elderly person, the homeowner comes and says, this is my situation. We really don't delve into, we don't say, well, we need to see medical records, or we don't even really, we care about more of the layout and them being able to revert the house back after the situation is done. We're not the police, but we're assessing the credibility, and like the gentleman that was before us the last time. I think that the board collectively is like, this situation is odd, and we were able to assess his credibility. So
I don't think we want to assess people's
I
credibility.
absolutely do. I absolutely do.
That worries me. So maybe we need to just get town council in to talk to you guys separately during maybe an executive session.
We wouldn't be
and-
able to-
We could, because I think these matters, when we're bringing people in to talk about things that might affect questions that we might ask during a hearing, I think we need to just have some education about that and the role of the board. So however we do that, I think we really need to look at this before we move further, because we just need to be very educated and know what your position as board members are when we do this. And I think that's all I'm gonna say on this. I take this very seriously, as we all do. When we start to bring people in and just ask certain questions, we need to be very, very careful. And I don't ever want to put the board in a position where some of the questions that we ask could really jeopardize us, and nobody wants to do that. And so that's all I'm gonna say on it, and I'm trying to work on managing this in a really thorough way, because it has not been done.
An example of one of the questions that would go too far. And when that ever happened before.
I do think that with the special permit with the woman that's mother, and I don't want to give, but had some mental health issues, that, you know, we were waiting to maybe give her that until the mother was going to be able to move into that place. I don't know if that form of questioning should have gotten that far.
I don't recall that one.
I personally agree with Ray, though. I mean, I kind of think that I'm not sure, I don't think we should kind of get into the policing of. I also think that even the applicants we've had in the past that are bad, the system has kind of caught them. That it's kind of like, I think we should need to leave it up to Tim and Amy or neighboring residents, and say someone is doing it and then a family member is not there, they're renting an illegal apartment. I think that that's up to the neighborhood. If the neighbors, you know, let the town know, then we have to leave the onus on kind of the neighborhood to kind of bring that to our attention. I do kind of agree. I think that I could see administratively that not having it all be in one group, kind of splitting it up, complicates it, and that I think it is kind of a slippery slope. That I think that I agree with Ray that I think the first pass through when they come for the family apartment, I think that's when we kind of vet it. And that some of those things come to light if they're not on the up and up. But that I think after that, they've kind of done it, and that personally, I think that I don't think it's kind of our task or kind of should be in our kind of wheelhouse to be the truth police, or kind of like making sure that like the family member is actually there that they're saying is there. We just have to take the affidavit for what it's worth, to me.
Right, so I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying is, rather than staff making an assessment of credibility, rather than staff assessing, okay, this person is who they are, without intruding, and I agree
Yeah.
that it's not our role to intrude, but rather than delegate that to staff to do it, that the board do what is, in my opinion, supposed to do, is to do that function. That's our job. It's not the neighbors to enforce zoning and to renew permits. It's the board's job to vet these things. I get it. I get what you're saying.
Because I guess devil's advocate, say the scenario you're worried about happening happens, then I'd say that one at Pelletier or some of those other ones, it would be like, okay, there's excessive number of vehicles in the yard, there's noise complaints, there's, you know, Tim goes to visit it because they're renting it out and there's issues, then I feel like then it gets caught through that, versus us being kind of, it is tricky where it is a little intrusive, that you're kind of like
Right.
making sure that who they say is there.
Right, and many years ago, part of what I'm dealing with, and there's no reflection on you,
No,
Tim,
absolutely
or
not.
anyone
I
else.
just want to manage it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will identify who or the function. But many years ago, this town really had a disservice done by an individual in a capacity to vet things.
Remain nameless.
They will remain nameless, but there collectively, a lot of people were asleep at the wheel.
Okay.
And I'm not saying Amy, yeah, but administratively, towns are, you know, there's a lot going on. There's people with different functions, and often innocently enough, someone thinks someone else is doing something, but in this other situation, many years ago, many years ago, a lot of bad things happened in this town because people weren't as diligent as they were. So I'm always protective of the board's role in making sure that we're protective of the town. And part of that, if someone has to come into a hearing, just say I'm still there.
So I guess one question I would have, which I would agree, but for instance, like if you have those cases, like say the one that was previous, could we not just have the Amy flag it? So that it's
You're
like, okay.
exactly right,
that
Brian, and
one-
that's when we bring them in. You're exactly right, and that's,
So if they
Brian, that's
feel
where
like it's
you're correct,
legit,
too.
then they're good.
so you have a worry and that worry's flagged. You're both absolutely correct. Then at that point, we actually have to have a public hearing for that. To say, listen, you haven't paid your taxes, you have, 3 unregistered vehicles, you had this violation, so that one would not be approved. They would come to you, so a butter notice would go out, it would have to be advertised in the newspaper, and you would have that decision at that point where you can say, yes, let's renew it or not. So you would have that ability.
Well, let me suggest this. Would this work for you? If, we grant a permit, we do it as we normally do. 5 years goes by, they come to see you and it's an administrative approval. But if another 5 years goes by, so it's a 10-year gap since the issuance of the permit. Then on the second renewal, they're gonna come back, and 10 years to me, in that situation, is a lifetime for people that are elderly, sick, or have
And then
that.
they wouldn't renew it. So if somebody passed away within that period, then I'd get a note, they passed away, we no longer need this.
After
So-
10 years, I think it's fair for someone to come back and say, I want to renew. the
Yeah.
application."
Why don't we have another meeting where everybody can take part in this? Because I don't think we're gonna solve it tonight. So I think we need to hear from Art. I think we need to hear from Peter, because Peter had some pretty strong views on it. I don't think it's gonna probably be something we can probably finish in December, the discussion, because we have 3 other hearings. So if we're not comfortable with this, I wanted to move forward in January. I don't think we can, so I'm just gonna wait until July. Which is unfortunate, because I really wanted to move forward with this, but it is what it is. So I think instead of going further tonight, we need to get other people, and I think for that discussion, we should have town council here,
Okay.
if that works.
And so is there a way to give you more confidence in the administrative section of it, as, checking things, for example, I don't know, records of,
No, I think-
release or
I think
something
maybe
like
with-
that already happens?
I have it all ready to
That
go.
already
I
happens.
have it all,
right?
it does,
And that's when it gets flagged, and that's how
Yes.
it all goes.
yes.
And that's what
Yes.
happened,
That's what was supposed to happen.
It wasn't
It
though,
all-
that's-
Since Jim has been around, that's basically
I
what
understand.
happened. I'm talking to the individual.
Before, I understand.
You know what, Brian, it
Before I
hasn't
do.
happened, these haven't been renewed since probably 2000. So this hasn't happened. And so
So
this system is being put in place now, and I want the system to work, and I will make sure the system works. But I 100% do not believe that it's your place to have 30 people come in saying, this is my mother, this is my, I just think it just slows the process down, and my goal is to get, 30 of them approved. Maybe there's 5 that not, get those for a public hearing for you guys, get those 30 in we have an e-permitting system, get those 30 in our e-permitting system, so the next 5 years, whether I'm here, whether somebody else is there, those pop up in the system. We'll see, because right now the whole system merges, where I can go in and see Board of Health, if they have a violation, it's on the file. If Tim has issued something, it's on the file, because everything's in one location. So absent of the person, this will still be in place. So what hasn't happened is nobody's gone back to create that list to get those 5 things. So I want to get it moving, and I want to get it done. And putting into the e-permit is going to be great, because then everybody can see these 30s have received the renewals. These 2 aren't, these 2 are in front of the board denied the renewal. It just, I want to keep this moving. And I really feel like town council gave you, what she's recommending. And, if we're not comfortable, then we're not comfortable, but, I want to keep moving with
That's a
it.
very good point.
It's-
That's something I was thinking about. It's, now data keeping and tracking is no longer, I worked for a company that created the permitting software. I was doing programming SQL for exactly that. It was called Viewpoint. And actually, I think Bellingham did an interview them anyhow. Now you're talking about big databases. There are automatic checks, automatic flags. You can automatically bring in the database, compare it with this one. It's like, okay, this doesn't match. This person deceased, they're no longer there, so you have technology now. But 10 years ago, it didn't exist. 10 years ago, I was working on it. I was helping create it for, Belmont, everywhere, Worcester, Connecticut, yeah, so there's these systems that automatically do it, or they give you the capability to do it when you want to check it. So it's no longer, papers and open a file and, it's gonna take you a year to check all of Bellingham. So that exists, first of all. And second of all, is it more detrimental for us to wait on this and have it lapse through July? Do you feel like is it better to set that precedence and have it go another 6 months with people not having those renewed? I feel like that's something to take into consideration as well.
Yeah,
That delay.
I guess I come back to I don't understand I'm not trying to be difficult.
Oh, no.
I'm not, but I don't understand the administrative.
The administrative side of it is if we look at what Amy said is I have to send a letter out 60 days prior to. So my goal was come December, I'm getting those letters out. Whoever doesn't get the application in with the testimony that taxes are paid, the sworn affidavit, who lives there. If I don't get that back from I don't know, maybe there's 40 of them that I send out, then I'm gonna have my list in 60 days. Who gave me everything, which is the check for $150, who didn't? 2 didn't, 38 did. Those 38, then I go and check, yep, this is good, nope, up, red flag, this, now I have 3 in this pile. So then those 3, I'm gonna have to then go and do the public hearing process. So there's a process that I have to do administratively to sift through the paperwork. And it's 60 days based on, I think, what town council said, that I have to let them know 60 days prior, here's your application. The application will have the sworn affidavit with the, pains of perjury or however we want to word that. So I want to get that application ready because I want to get these out.
Why can't that happen?
Why can't that happen? Because if we're gonna say to them, we want you to come in, then I have to redo the application.
You're
So
saying
we-
instead of grouping it all in one big group,
different.
it's splitting it.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
3 different mailers.
right.
And is the e-permitting software capable of doing?
Oh, yeah, it's
All
great.
of the special
Great.
permit and just
Yes.
automatic flags when it's
Yes.
expired?
And I'm grouping them by year, so
Right.
I'm taking a whole grouping, so those will be for 5 years. I'm not doing it like by month.
Right.
Which makes sense, so you guys will renew those now yearly, so every January, you're gonna have a batch of them.
And what would be what I suggested with if they're 2 out, they're 2 cycles out, or they haven't renewed in 2 cycles, let's say there's somebody that's on there since 2000. What would be the harm to bring them in?
Why would they, if they give you everything you need?
Because it's been 2
But
cycles.
why? Why would that be a concern to you? If their mother's still living there, why should that matter to you?
Because that's 10 years.
But it doesn't matter. If they've hit the criteria, why would you think you have the power to say
Are
no?
you discriminating between an older one and a newer one?
I'm just trying to find a way to get what you want and to give me a little comfort, is that they're too far out, they haven't renewed. They're really old. And I remember Jim doing this
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. He pulled in a lot of old people, and all the old people, he made sure there was a hearing. I could be very wrong, but I do remember going through the
that
process.
would be a slip, yeah, I think let's.
My question would be administratively, don't you have a database of who's supposed to be living there and kind of more discussion, but the disease,
Look at
doesn't
right.
it automatically check? So that's my
There's-
question is,
Yeah.
how can the board be comfortable with the administrative process? And let's think about the technology that we have now compared to what we didn't have before. If these checks and balances, if Amy can say, look, yes, I spoke to the programmers and they said, yes, we can, cross-reference, who's passed away, who's moved away, who's currently has a special permit, and those are 2 databases with names. All you have to do is check, do they match?
Mhm.
They don't match, flag,
Mhm.
and then
Right.
bring them in, that's exactly
Right.
what this process is doing.
Mhm.
So I feel like what's missing is trusting the administrative section, and if we can automate it, that's my specialty.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this.
Maybe you'll feel more comfortable.
You tie the social security numbers of of either the person that's living there. And that's it against death records or.
I don't do, no, I am not touching that with, no, I will not, that's that's
what
where-
Ray just said.
yeah, no.
You have
We-
names, you know if they've moved out or if they're passed away.
No, we don't get that in
Oh,
depth
you don't
here.
go there.
No, we don't get that in depth,
So just
no.
the signature.
It's a signature, and that's what I've been advised is enough for the board. They do not want to start digging into
But
that.
even that's a slippery slope,
It is.
because if you say,
It
like, if
is.
it's incorrect or.
What are you gonna do, question them?
But the one thing I
I
was
mean,
disappointed with.
no,
But again, like, I don't want to be the only one.
I know,
You guys
I
are
know.
comfortable with
I
it?
like
Fine.
So the
Fine.
one other thing though that I was gonna say that I was disappointed in with the town council's letter was that. It read to me, just like Ryan said, it said, it's usually administrative, but you could do what you want, but you didn't address anything about. Liability, like, cause I know, I was
Because
just,
there are none.
did
It was
we got
very-
concerned about
yeah.
us opening ourselves up
Yes.
for liability?
yeah,
There's no liability, zero liability. There's nothing. What can we possibly ask in a public setting where we incur liability on part of the town?
I'm not going, yeah, it's,
Look, I don't want to be the only one to hold this up. You guys are comfortable, you're comfortable with it?
I think you guys, yeah, figure out what you wanna do.
I have my concerns.
Totally. Totally understandable why you do.
Yeah, I don't want to look at the process,
Yeah.
but please, if I'm the only holdup.
I wanna know Jason's take on what he would want or recommend or feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm good with the administrative. I think everything has a paper trail,
Do it.
you know, neighbors and stuff, so. If you're doing something you're not supposed to, it'll catch up to you.
Okay, I just live in a world where that's not true, but please, I don't want to be the only one that.
But also you had made a good point, you know, if it's, you know, two periods, you know, 10 years. 10 years, you know, still kind of short, maybe if we can extend that, is that something still like in the gray area, do you think? You know, like three periods, 15?
Oh, no, 3 years, no one's gonna be on the board, if they've
15 years.
gone 3 years.
That's very long, yeah.
That's a long time.
Is that something still like on in the gray area, if we were to follow if people have exceeded the 10 and they haven't renewed, right? Is that second criteria, we haven't yet?
No, it's just if you go 2 cycles, if you've gone,
Well, they went through the first cycle, they did the right thing.
the problem is that if you go on MLS or somewhere, all these homes are advertised as 2 families or, or people are renting it after they built this kitchen,
Mhm.
they're gonna
That's
rent it
fair,
out.
right.
Oh, yeah, sure, my brother still lives there, you know what I mean? And that's, to me, that's finding a form where you're willing to take that risk and sign a form. You know, to me, personally, coming in front of somebody and taking that step, and that's the only step we really require. And then having to articulate something that's not true is different. But again, that's me. Everyone else is comfortable with it. Go ahead. You know what I mean? I don't want to stand in the way of progress.
And what's the number? Do we have like an estimate of what it might be?
We
If you were to throw a number?
I
how
have,
many
how
people?
many right now? We have back to 2012, there's 30, I think, 35. So that's not bad. But I also want to go back to the 90s. So, I mean, I could realistically, I could have them ready for January and be ready. But I need to know from you guys, because if we're not comfortable, I don't want, but I also believe not everybody's gonna, no disrespect, Brian, please don't take it, but not everybody's gonna be unanimous with any decision we make at times. And so I think at some point, we just need to, the board has to make a decision what the majority wants, if the majority wants, and that's why I know Brian was comfortable with he was swaying more with what you were thinking. Art, I think, was more on the administrative, so somebody just has to make a decision on how you want me to manage this, because I want to get it done. Period of the story. I want to get it done.
What I would suggest is pick a date.
Mine was
So-
January. That was my
pick a
date. I
date.
wanted January. Just because it's easier, because whether I'm here or not, I can write a book and say to whoever's here, if I'm not here in 15 years, every January, we do the renewals.
Fine, so,
That's-
so from 2012 to now.
Yeah. Do
Let's
those,
do your process,
okay.
but anyone prior to 2012 that hasn't renewed,
Mhm.
that's 10 years, they gotta come in.
Feel like that's a good compromise.
Yep,
Person.
Because they've
Okay.
taken advantage of.
I
the
think that's
system.
fair.
And given the number now that we know it's 30, so let's say it's 70 total. A high percentage should be okay.
Right.
And then, you know, it's gonna be a very small percent, what, 10 might come
Right.
in front of the
That's
board.
fair,
That's,
yeah.
that's very reasonable, so I
That's
think
fair.
that
I think
really
that's a fair
brings
compromise.
in both, yeah.
Are you okay with that?
No, it's fine.
I'm good, I'm good with that too. I just want to get going. I'm so ready to get these off the plate because they haven't been managed and I really want to manage this.
When I heard it hasn't been done in a long time, that's when I'm like, okay, I don't want it to
No,
delay it another.
no,
Yeah, I think it
Half a
makes
year.
sense, and I'm
Yes.
all for
yes,
making it happen.
okay.
It really bothers me when people take advantage of the system.
I know, Brian, and you know what? It worked though at our last hearing. And I don't know who said it. I think it was you, Brian, that you said if somebody's doing something, the neighborhood catches it. And so we are able, people are saying this person doesn't have the permit and
I
they're
do think
notifying the
that-
office. So,
We have like an obligation, but at the same
Right.
time, I think like residents of the town also, we can't police it, we can't kind of vet everything,
No.
so it's like. Part of it has to be on, if you're a resident, to bring it to the attention of.
and these residents did with the last one that you guys voted
Yeah.
on. And
But
that
I-
the process worked.
So 2012 and before,
Yes,
well, no, if they're granted in 2012, then administrative review.
yes,
Anything prior to
Yes.
2012, they have to come in. And I'm sure many of them probably don't need it, but.
they might not. And so that's perfect. So I'll put that in the letter. That's a great compliment. Thank you.
Blood sample.
Take your time.
2 years of tax return.
Right, tax return. Okay, good, good, good. Okay. I think we're done. I think we've exhausted it.
All those in favor?
Do your sign off, Brian.
That's a different board, I'll do it.
Okay, do it.
Oh, you do a sign off?
I think the night Bellingham, I give them a little salute.
Really?
Thanks, Pam.